That's what I was getting at. So everybody just mute, and then we'll jump in after they get going, and you know, once Dragnut turns Sky out into a puddle.
Yeah.
Well, it may just be, you know, educational. Hopefully, folks. I've been drinking, by the way. I had some sake and Mai Tai tonight, but I'm trying to figure out, because Sky appeared on my stream earlier today, and he's saying the same thing that a lot of these guys say when they kind of conflate abiogenesis with evolution. And I mean, it's a common error if people don't understand what exactly they're trying to address, because for them, well, since, you know, the genesis of all life is related to the proliferation of all life, it's the same thing, and it's not. Like, it is actually two separate fields entirely. But maybe if Skyle can put forth what he thinks is the case, we can go from there, because I don't know what his education is on the topic, and so I'm not going to guess.
Yeah, basically, I mean, obviously, you're probably going to be a little bit more educated on the subject because you study biology. But basically, what I was trying to say, like, I gave you the tape of Richard Dawkins and to explain the origin of life and the spontaneous of assembly from organic molecules to a self-replicating cell. Basically, when you talk about the abiogenesis, I guess that's how you pronounce it. Sorry, it's just science words here.
So let's start off. Why would I listen to Richard Dawkins when it comes to a field that he's not even a specialist in?
Basically, you don't have to listen to him. I'm just saying, like, the majority of the scientific community, like, that people look at Richard Dawkins, basically they admit that they don't know how the first replicating cell got here. You know what I'm saying?
So you've actually spoken to people who specialize in biochemistry, specifically molecular biology?
I've studied it. I've
studied it. So yeah. Which particular authors have you studied their work?
Well, I've studied it. Well, there's Rick Dean. There's a guy you probably just don't know. I mean, I could name
Dr. Rick Dean.
Yeah, and there's a couple guys, mostly just from him, because he's a Christian too. So
is he a urologist?
I think you might be looking at the wrong person. But basically, back to the subject about, like we were talking about. I was basically just wanting to make something simple and just basically identify the two definitions of what you were talking about.
Well, hold on. You're referencing this. You said, so Dr. Rick Dean, what is his actual specialty, so I can be on the same page?
I mean, if you want me to send you the link, I can do that in a minute here. I was just wanting to respond.
Well, just name it. What field does he have his PhD in? What did he do?
Biology.
Biology.
Yeah.
Okay. So just biology. He just did a regular biology PhD, no specialization, just biology.
Yeah.
No one does a general biology PhD.
Yeah, he's. I mean, I can read his credentials. I mean, I don't memorize credentials. I think he's got a little bit more than that. I don't memorize.
Feel free. Just very briefly.
Okay. Basically, if you want me to read about Richard Dean, he is from the community, from the scientific community, from GodandScience.org. So he supports the Christian apologetics, which is created by Rich Dean, which basically has to do with if you go to the actual website, he gives a description of what his credibility is. But he is a scientist, he's a biologist, and he has like all these slideshows about biology and the study of organic molecules. And he has it in very detail. Like you were talking about the Genesis account on your stream, or actually, I think you were talking about Noah's flood, and he talks about that too. So basically, back to the subject. We're getting off subject a little bit. I was trying to get back to.
You not told me what his you repeated biology, and you've not actually told me what how can I get this guy's thesis? While you're talking to me, do you have his thesis somewhere? Because when you tell me that these guys are from Christian websites, most of them don't actually have any actual degrees in the field that they're talking about. James Tour, for instance, wants to talk about molecular biology, but he's an inorganic synthetic materials biochemist. And yeah, supposedly the guy's name is Richard Dean, and I'm having a hard time trying to find his thesis. And that's kind of important if you're going to make it sounds like you're making an argument from authority, but I'm not going to go.
No.
I would try to be on the same page with what is this guy's thesis and how does it support something that's clearly not scientific. Because
Hey,
he did his PhD in it.
just real quick, let me interject. I just want to say, Immutable Destiny just let me know in the side chat that he is a
Yeah, he's a
biochem major, and in a few minutes he'd like to get in. And I just wanted to point out to Sky out. You mentioned something about this scientist having slideshows. Kent Hovind also has slideshows. So.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he?
Atheist rationale. Could you mute though? We're letting Drag
Yeah,
and
I will
Sky
right
out.
now.
Sky, yeah,
I
Sky out.
apologize.
Go ahead. No, you're okay. And then we'll all get in here in a little bit.
Immutable, if you can find the guy, link him because I see the side chat, but I'm not finding any guy. Where is this guy's thesis at?
Yeah, I'm looking for it, and I'm like,
Because I'm not finding
I'm
it.
not seeing it.
Let me see if I can find it for you, man. Just give me 1 second.
Because I think that's sort of important because it sounds like you haven't actually looked into anything within Axe. Have you looked at any primary research, first and foremost, on abiogenesis?
Hold on, let me give you what you want real quick before you ask me a question. I'm trying to.
That's fine. And while you look for that, it's kind of important if we're going to discuss the topic that we're going to reference people who are supposedly done work in the field.
Yeah.
Oh man, that looks like Google Scholar. Not all right. Richard Deem. Okay, no wonder. Bachelor's in Biological Science, University of Southern California. Master's in Microbiology. See, Master's. I don't see PhD. So he has a master's degree in microbiology.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not claiming like authority over here. I'm just saying that's.
But when I said is it Dr. Richard Deem? You said yes, and he doesn't have a PhD.
Well, I do apologize about that. Like I said, I don't memorize his credentials, but he is qualified as a molecular biologist.
Okay. So you do know that when we're talking about abiogenesis, that is almost strictly biochemistry, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
and I literally just mentioned to you that a lot of these guys like to speak and I gave an example, James Tour, where that's not his field. Why is he speaking on a field that he doesn't specialize in?
Yeah, but again, I don't know where you're deriving your information from. You may want to show me that source too.
What information? We're talking about the origin of life, correct? Of organic molecules?
Yeah. Do you actually have an author or a book that you read? Is there a book that you read, or?
There's lots of books. There is no one book. Sorry.
Yeah, me too.
We are referring to biochemistry.
Yeah, when I referred to Rick Dean, he's not the only one. Just like you said, you don't have the only one. So I'm trying to see what kind of books you read.
Do you have someone who specializes in biochemistry specifically?
The same books you read.
That it doesn't matter. We can find all types of books. I care about primary research. I mentioned that earlier.
Okay, what is your primary research? It's the same as mine.
I actually linked some to you. I'll link a secondary source to you.
Okay.
For the primary. So do you want primary research on abiogenesis?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I can link that to you. That's not a problem. So it's apparent to me that you've not actually looked on any primary research at any point in time.
No, I have. I looked at the same ones you have.
Okay, you looked at the same primary research.
Yeah.
When I say primary literature, you know what that is.
The same research and primary literature that you've looked at. Yeah.
Okay, so link me one of the primary literature sources that you have. What journal? Is it in Nature? Is it in Cell? Where is it?
It's the same as yours, man.
What do you mean the same as mine?
If you want me to show links, you have to show me one too. I'm not going to sit here and show links all day.
I mean, you are aware that like scientific journals are very widespread in their application, right? There's journals for organic chemistry, there's journals for biochemistry, there's journals for synthetic approaches, there's all sorts. Like, it's not just one giant compository like Google where you could just search it up.
Exactly. I was trying to get to the actual conversation instead of looking at sources and actual websites. But,
yeah, sure. Like, what's one of the topics you've been reading into recently? Like, name a topic.
I thought we were going to talk about like the origin of life, not the sources of who we look to.
Yeah, I mean, there's several different issues with the origin of life, like RNA world hypothesis, the origin of heterochirality. Like, what topic do you want to go after?
I was trying to at least define our terms. I'm pretty sure we have like different ways and angles that we talk about this, so I'm trying to see if we can at least define our terms of.
Sure. What term do you find ambiguous that needs clarification?
Okay. Basically, I don't know how you view how life got here on Earth. Either the origin of life, the two possibilities of existence of life is either spontaneous assembly from chemicals, or there's a creator that created biological systems. So I don't know how you go through.
Hold on 1
I don't
second.
necessarily.
Sky, hold on, Sky out. That was a complete false dichotomy. There's not only two possibilities.
Yeah,
Are you sure? I don't know how you think like humans got here, but basically there's only two ways. It's either organic molecules or there's a God who designed biological systems.
Nope.
Or alien.
Oh, okay, that's weird.
Does DNA not like register in your vocabulary because it's a giant molecule?
Yeah, but we have something better than DNA. We have RNA, and that RNA existed way before anything. So you gotta actually look at that first.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with RNA and that it's like it transcribes DNA. It essentially helps get it complements DNA and takes it to tRNA and deals with proteins and all the fun stuff. But
I know what Drag was talking about, the abiogenesis, that things can come from non-living organisms or non-living life to a organic compound or some organic. But what we're talking about is basically what does the word and how did humans come to existence, basically, either through evolution or through something that came organically by itself. And
first and foremost, right? Humans is a long stretch away from a single cell.
Right.
I don't think anybody thinks that abiogenesis just says, a star exploded one day and humans just happen to be the result of it by, some kind of woo-woo magic. Like
an alien.
Well,
But
there's
this is
very
part
few
of
people who actually take that possibility seriously.
is that you like to conflate abiogenesis and evolution, and this is exactly what I was talking about in the email. You switch back and forth
I just
between them.
explained it,
So
Drag.
either you want to discuss the chemical origins of all life, or do you want to skip ahead and discuss the proliferation and the diversification?
I'm sorry you were not listening, but I just explained about
You
biogenesis.
literally named both of them and mispronounced one of them. So I'm trying to figure out which one you're talking about because they're not the same.
You were asking how is it that a human comes from a biological soup?
Thank you. Someone's listening.
Okay, but the issue is you need a cell before that can happen. So do you want to talk about genetic mechanisms of heredity, or do you actually want to talk about how it is we get a first cell? Because one doesn't happen without the other.
Exactly. Well, I was trying to explain our terms real fast, because I know we have different terminology. But I was trying to basically say that the descent. Well, what is evolution? Basically, and I know Drag's gonna say I'm conflating or confusing, but I'm gonna get to that part too. But evolution has to do with the descent with genetic modification with biodiversity of life, with diverse with chemicals and organisms. Okay, so that's evolution. And so I don't know how the three types of evolution are divergent, convergent, and parallel evolution. That it doesn't stop there.
Hey, Sky out real quick. Let me get in here and just ask you a question. Okay, and I'm going to ask you the same question they just asked you because we need to get your clarification on this before we can move forward. Do you want to talk about the origin of life, or do you want to talk about evolution? Because you're talking a whole lot about evolution right now, and they're willing to have a discussion with you about evolution. But you say define your terms. How about we define what the discussion is? Are we talking about the origin of life, or do you want to talk about evolution? Pick one of them.
We can talk about the origin of life. I'm not too sure how you view how humans got here. That's why I referred to evolution. So if you can explain to me how humans got here without evolution.
Well, right, but you say that's why you referred to evolution. Evolution has, nothing to do with how life began, though. They've tried to explain that to you like several times. They're two different topics.
Nah. Basically, he tried to show me some sources and some websites.
No, not really.
I think it's funny too, Drag. I think it's hilarious.
It's the same. So I'm genuinely curious. We can't even start the conversation because you can't pick a lane to discuss it in. Like this is literally a non-starter. It's really simple.
It is a non-starter.
So let me give you an analogy. Do you want to talk about the threshold of a doorway, or do you want to talk about the interior design?
Whatever you want to do.
Okay, so let's talk about the interior design because that's probably where you know most in. Because I guarantee you, as soon as we start getting into the minutia of how chemicals actually correspond with other chemicals, right? You're not going to know anything. And I'm not going to spend time teaching you organic chemistry in this hangout. So it's easier for you to parrot stuff from AIG about evolution and for us to debunk it. That'll be much easier for everybody.
I wasn't doing that, but that's fine. I was just trying to clarify, how did humans come to existence, Greg? That's all I'm asking.
Okay, so you want to talk about human origins then?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Finally, now the conversation can begin.
So look, Drag, you and Sky and Immutable, since this is your field too, feel free to let's let them go for like another 5-6 minutes, and then I'll start getting everybody else.
Yeah, other people can get in. So it's my understanding that the biggest issue of a lot of young Earth creationists is that they don't actually understand science as an enterprise. They don't understand how scientific inquiry works. They don't understand the inferences that are made and the philosophical underpinnings. And so when we have these conversations, it ends up being a discussion of, well, I agree with, and I'm taking the role of young Earth creationist, I agree with microevolution, that is evolution, divergence of species within my lifetime that I can personally observe, versus, well, you're telling me that I came from this hominid creature millions of years ago that somewhat loosely resembled me and loosely resembled an ape. And so then it becomes the game of, this credulity over that credulity, rather than, hey, we actually do have genetic evidence showing that we are actually related to these creatures. So I'm genuinely curious as to any young Earth creationist that has ever actually sat down and read any primary literature instead of just trying to gobble down Ken Hovind's dick.
Basically, I'm trying to give you an explanation of how humans beings got here and the origin of life and human beings. I don't know how you come to the conclusion that life began with non-living things to non-living things. Because
let's try and stick with one topic at a time. You said you wanted to discuss human evolution, so
For
argumento's sake, let's grant him whatever the hell you want to say with that, because I think he's working with an extra chromosome than we are. So go ahead. Just
makes me tighter. Basically, you were talking about the microevolution and macroevolution, because basically there's versions. I was trying to explain to you the fact that mutations are the ultimate source of new allies in the gene pool. So mechanism, basically the ultimate source of the new allies in the gene pool. So the relevant mechanisms of the evolutionary change are natural selection, genetic drift. So these are the types of evolution. They're divergent and convergent with parallel evolution. So evolution is the descent with inherent genetic modification with biodiversity. So there's microevolution, there's macroevolution. And I wanted to let you know, basically what I accept. I mean, I can accept microevolution as a scientific reliable theory that describes intelligent design with microorganisms, which were endowed by a designer. But with macroevolution is simply just not supported by any record of any scientific research. So
okay, I'm going to. I know you're making a point here, but for the sake of future in this conversation, what exactly are you referring to when you refer to macroevolution? For instance, what would be the fine cutoff point between macroevolution and microevolution?
Oh, very, very simple. Macroevolution has to do with an extrapolation of all changes in body designs, like the speciation between parapatric and I'm sorry, I'm trying to think of the word. But
parapatric speciation.
Thank you.
If you don't know what it means, don't use it, man.
No, I can't pronounce it. Sorry.
If you don't, it's clear that you just recently heard that word. Just describe it. Just leave the label out. Just stop it.
Well, there's microevolution. There's macroevolution. I'm just letting you know about. I do apologize about the how pronunciation of the freaking word. But basically, I'm just trying to let you know that microevolution is what I accept as a reliable theory that God exists through which He designed with organisms, which are endowed by a designer. The atheists are saying that there is no God and life came from complex sociology and biology, from evolution, from time and history, from society and experience, by Darwinian evolution, by natural selection. And that's something from complex sociology and biology from evolution. And to deny the existence of God, the scientific studies demonstrate that humans that deny a creator must believe that the universe came out of nothing and that does not need a cause, and that something can come into being out of nothing. So
Okay.
Sky,
wait, John,
wait,
no, I got
hey,
this, I
Sky,
got this,
Sky,
I got it.
Okay, hold on. I just want to ask, before you go on, Immutable, I just want to ask you and Drag, did anything that Sky Out just said over the last several, hey, Sky Out, hold up. Did anything that hey, Sky Out.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm getting feedback. I thought you were talking. I'm sorry. Did anything that he just said in the last few minutes, did that in any way answer the question you put to him?
No.
He was just asking. We were talking about the origin of life. He hasn't really said anything about it. He just wanted me to
Actually,
explain.
hold on. What, Sky, what was Immutable's question?
Amoeba's question.
Yeah, what is the question he asked you?
The question you asked me? Or the
No,
question-
Immutable.
What's the question that I asked you,
Just
Sky?
talking. What was the question he had asked you that you literally just spent 2 minutes responding to?
We're talking about the origin of life.
My fucking God.
Oh my God.
So I asked you, Sky Out, and perhaps you'll answer again. What is the difference between, like, if I'm in a laboratory, if I'm a field explorer, I want to know what is the difference? Like, where is the line in the sand between microevolution and macroevolution?
That's
Where
what we're talking about. The origin of life of microevolution and macroevolution. Microevolution is basically unequivocally proven through numerous scientific studies. So I'm explaining what microevolution is, so please listen, because I'm telling you, microevolution is unequivocally.
I don't need you to explain what microevolution is. I simply need you to give me a line of demarcation where it stops and where macroevolution begins.
It stops at the mutation, recombination, and various species.
Okay, so you're aware that when cells divide, when a mom and dad have sex, right? That recombination is kind of a thing that happens in order for progeny, like for the children, for the babies, to have genetic diversity, right?
That's not the subject.
Yes, it is. You just said macroevolution stops at the level of recombination.
That's exactly what I just said.
Do you know what recombination is?
I don't know if you do.
I do. I can explain it to you.
No, sir. No, sir. You just mentioned recombination as an example, as a part of the demarcation that Immutable had mentioned. You brought that up, not him. You tell him and everybody else what that actually is, Sky Out.
We were talking about microevolution and macroevolution.
Yeah, and I asked you a very specific question. What is recombination in respect to this conversation?
Oh, recombination has to do with the concepts of microevolution, such as mutation and natural selection.
You're aware.
No idea what it is, do you?
I think you're just confused and you're delusional.
You're aware that not just bacteria do that, right? But cells, gametic cells, gamete cells within your body do that as well.
Just like you clearly read that somewhere, and you have no idea what it's actually referencing.
I think he just read it. I think he just looked it up and read it right now.
This is a good test. So what cells in your body go through recombination, Sky Out?
The same as yours.
No, which cells?
Same as yours.
No, there is no same as mine. Which specific?
I got it. Don't worry about it. Okay. There are two types of cells there are two general classes of cells that are in your body. Those types of cells are called somatic cells and gametic cells.
Okay.
Which type of cell undergoes recombination?
Same as yours.
Okay, we're both have the same type of cells,
right,
but which one undergoes recombination, Sky Out?
Look, hold on a second.
I'm sorry.
I'm genuinely
Here,
curious.
hold on a second, Mutable. I muted Sky Out for a minute. Look, this is kind of getting ridiculous right now. But Immutable, just to step back a moment, since Sky Out couldn't do it,
I'm not muted.
Could you? Well, you were for a second. I muted you. Immutable, could you please explain for those of us in the audience that might not know what the difference is between micro and macro evolution, since Skyout couldn't do it?
Sure. So microevolution tends to be variation within some type of organism and within its progeny. So, like you'll have dogs; they may have certain alleles that control fur color. So when dogs breed, you may have some dogs that are spotted, some that are patched. You might have some that are more amplified in their ability to run, in their ability to be muscular. Some that may differ in their morphology. So microevolution builds upon small changes, and eventually, after enough changes, the line of demarcation kind of becomes blurry. Macroevolution can take place at the species level, where if you have two generations which can no longer breed with one another.
So macroevolution, and this is coming from an idiot, a self-prescribed idiot myself. So macroevolution basically deals with speciation then.
Yes, macroevolution essentially deals with speciation.
Okay.
Yeah. So there is really no, like, in reality, there's no cutoff. Like it's all the same. It's measuring the same distance with inches rather than miles, right? But the reason why there is that separation conceptually is to kind of help people understand some of the gross anatomical differences between species. Because if you look at the physiology or I should say the anatomy of Homo erectus, it is quite different than ours, as far as the femur length and the cranial size and whatnot. And so
and whatnot.
So that's kind of an easier way to explain it to people. But then this is kind of a learning experience for people. If you don't know, and I said this to him earlier, if you don't know the terminology, don't use it.
Right.
Because when you are obviously trying to sound like you have the shibboleth to have the conversation, people pick up on that. And it's really easy for me to pick up on the fact that Skyout literally read something before he came in here, and he doesn't know what he's talking about, which is fine. Like that's no problem. There's a lot of people who don't know as much as Skyout right now in the audience laughing at it.
Yeah.
Like, there's no shame in saying that, you know what, I don't know. There is trying to tell people who have literally tutored people in this, people who have literally tutored other people in this, that you know this stuff, and it's easy for us to spot that because you can trained to do that. So,
real quick, Drag, I just want to jump in and recognize Stupid Whore Energy, formerly known as Sarah Slapchats. Thank you for your $10 super chat, same as yours. I think she's speaking to Skyout. But yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and just real quick too. Here's the thing. When Immutable asked this question, Skyout, it should have been a clue to you that he asked this question such that he said, "Well, where is the cutoff between micro and macro evolution?" And as Drag just got done, describing, there really is no magic cutoff because it's kind of all the same. The distinction is that macroevolution, as Immutable said, happens at the speciation, but it's all of evolution is. I mean, it's all the same.
That's why I said whatever answer you said is the same as mine.
Well, right, but see, and that brings up a real interesting point. And then we can get everybody in here because really it's going nowhere with you. I didn't think I was going to have to make. I didn't think I was going to have to make this rule. But if you're asked an open-ended question, you cannot respond the same as you. Okay, we'll just make that rule right now. If you're asked an open-ended question,
What's up, guys? If you like my video, hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. Share me on your social media. Comment in the comment section below. Hit the subscribe button. Watch what's next. Watch what YouTube recommends for you. Tell all your friends how crazy Nakasuchi is. I'll see you soon.